We'll get started. Welcome, everyone. It's Wednesday, February 10th, and this is our very first Midwest Farmers Market Partners webinar of the year. We're very excited to have you. We have a handful of people on the webinar tool right now, and some of you will interact with us later on and check out our recording. So we're glad that you can participate either way. This is a USDA Food and Nutrition Service facilitated collaborative of Midwest Farmers Market coordinators, vendors, educators, federal nutrition program partners, and community leaders, and others, of course, and we meet together to discuss the challenges and the successes, news, events, all of which are interesting or interest to those folks that are interested in farmers market partners or farmers markets, taking SNAP at farmers markets, all this and that. So at the USDA Food and Nutrition Service, we are one agency within USDA. We oversee all of the federal feeding programs. There are 15 in total, and the ones that really come in partnership with farmers markets are SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, WIC, seniors, farmers markets, SNAP Ed. So there's a lot of different things where we have some crossover, and we're really, really thrilled to be able to bring together folks that want to talk about this subject. So logistically, I want to talk a little bit about how WebEx works. For those of you who are attending today, you can use a couple different features to interact with us. There's a chat feature. If you drop down to the bottom of your screen, you can see participants, and then there's chat. And there's a couple other things. You click some ellipses and some things will pop up. There's also a Q&A section. Along the way, if you have some news that you want to share, please put that in there. If you have some questions for me or for our speakers, you can put your chats in there. You can select, there's a drop-down. You can select, you can send the emails out to everyone, or you can send the email out to a designated person, panelist, or the host, me, Penny Weaver. And then also everyone is on mute. I do not plan on unmuting the phones because in the past we've found that there's dogs barking and people doing their dishes, and it's okay because multitasking is good, right? Anyway, we have two really good speakers with us today. Amy Crone is joining us from Maryland, where she is the project manager at MarketLink. And Dawn Barnes, who works over in Indianapolis, and she will be joining us today from the Society of St. Andrew. And both of them are going to speak for about 20 minutes each. We'll take some Q&A after each one of them present, and then wrap things up for the day. Also, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Penny Weaver. I am a public affairs specialist at the USDA Food and Nutrition Service here in the Midwest Region office. I am located in Chicago, and this is my dining room. So welcome to my home. All right, awesome. Well, let's kick things off with Amy. I'm going to give you the ball real quick.
All right, I will share my presentation.
Sorry about that. My phone, of course, starts ringing right while I'm talking. So, awesome. So, real quickly, Amy Crone is the project manager at MarketLink. She's going to talk to us a little bit about the new iteration of USDA's free equipment program. And what that process is to get that free equipment, and we're really excited to have you. So the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to share information about the MarketLink project with you all. I will go through this presentation relatively quickly, and I'll try and catch questions as we go, but as Penny said, we'll have some time at the end too. So MarketLink is a program of the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Programs, otherwise known as NAFMNP. NEFMMP is a national nonprofit that was founded hand in hand with the farmers market nutrition programs in the early 90s and is comprised of the members that manage the FMNP programs across the country. MarketLink is a technology solution that we first developed in 2013 through a USDA grant, and it is state-of-the-art in the sense that it is the only app through which you can accept SNAP in existence still today. It is a national program, so we are able to provide free equipment for farmers and markets across the country, and we hope to have a solution for everyone, whether or not they qualify for the USDA grant. So who are we? As I mentioned already, we're the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Programs, or FMNP. Our other partner is, of course, the Food and Nutrition Service, who has provided the grant for us to be able to do this work. And then our software and technology provider is Novadia Group, who's based in Austin, Texas, and they're the creators of the Total Pay point of sale apps, which we'll get more into later. How the program works is that a farmer or market takes the eligibility assessment on our webpage, and in order to be eligible for this grant, they just need not to have received free equipment through our program since October of 2019. So this is a great opportunity for folks that have potentially received equipment in the past to upgrade or get a license covered for 1 year. So after they do that assessment to confirm whether or not they qualify for the free equipment, they need to, of course, have FNS authorization to accept SNAP. And I'll get in a little bit more to that later. We do have a lot of technical assistance available to support that authorization process. Then they set up their account with Novadia Group to be able to process SNAP. And then lastly, their equipment ships right to their home. This is an overview of kind of the benefits of electronic payments and also the benefits of MarketLink. I won't read each of these items to you, but obviously in the era of the pandemic, it's more and more important to be able to accept electronic payments to minimize that physical contact. And we're just going to see payments shift more towards electronic and further away from cash in the future. The MarketLink program is distinct from the state program. Some states have received funding to be able to provide equipment to farmers and or markets as well. MarketLink is distinct in that A, we're available nationwide, as I mentioned before, and B, you can also accept credit and debit through the MarketLink device, the MarketLink app on your device. The benefits of accepting SNAP, this is a nice graphic that our communications manager put together. I think everyone on this call is likely aware of this virtuous cycle of benefits, but just for those that are not as aware, it will of course increase sales and improve profitability, expand the customer base, improve food access, and build a sense of community while adding to the SNAP shopper's well-being and creating market opportunities for farmers and markets. Last year in particular, there was almost 100 billion in SNAP issued. We saw SNAP really expanded, not exponentially, but expanded significantly due in particular to the pandemic EBT funding. And SNAP is also a great companion program to the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, which I'm sure, as you all know, the Farmers Market Nutrition Program is for fruits and vegetables only. So SNAP expands the customer shopping basket to include other items at the farmer's market or at the farm stand. These are some facts, again, that I'm sure you all are familiar with, but just as a reminder as to who is eligible to receive SNAP and the eligible foods, as I just mentioned, not only is it fruits and vegetables, but you also have meats, fish, poultry, eggs, cheese, and dairy. So along with FMNP, a participant can go to the market and really get everything that they need for a healthy pantry for their family. So the equipment that the farmer or market receives as part of the grant is a free card reader, a 1-year license to the app to accept SNAP, and then a printer waiver, which I'll talk more about in a minute. If a farmer or market or any authorized SNAP retailer is ineligible for receiving the free grant equipment, there are purchase options available. The other piece that is a really important part of this grant is that we are providing technical assistance. So we can go through each step of the process with a farmer or with a market as they complete the application, finish their eligibility assessment, confirm the status of their application, make sure that they receive their equipment and set it up, and we can even do a training for them to practice before that first day of market. We have an option to book an appointment with our regional representatives, which are throughout the country, so we can hopefully find a time that's convenient for you. The things that are new for this USDA grant, which are slightly different from the past, is that, as I mentioned before, farmers and markets, the only criteria for qualifying is just that they have not received equipment through this current grant. Second, USDA has provided a printer waiver for those who receive equipment through this grant. So there is the statutory requirement that a SNAP recipient receive a printed receipt, and that's waived for those that have received this grant, which means that they don't have to purchase an additional printer. They can, of course, if they would like to, but they can either text or email the receipt rather than printing it. So one less thing to have to remember to bring to market. The other big update is that Novidia Group is now a third-party processor, which I'll go more into detail in a moment. Mobile Market Plus, which many of you may be familiar with the last iteration of this grant, is now being phased out, and the new app is called Total Pay Go. The reason for the new app is that Square is now a credit and debit processing option within the Total Pay Go app, and we also have negotiated a slightly discounted rate for farmers and markets who use Square through the Total Pay Go app. More on the printer waiver. Again, it's for those that receive equipment through the grant. If folks already have functioning equipment that they're using from previous grants or that they've purchased on their own, the printed receipt requirement still applies. And we're waiting to hear back from USDA whether or not the waiver will be continued after the grant period. I think that their overall goal is to provide a waiver to the entire category of farmers markets and direct marketing farmers, but it will take a while to get to that point, particularly with a change in administration. And as I mentioned before, you can still purchase a printer if you would like to get one. Novidia Group is now a third-party processor, otherwise known as a TPP. There are some big advantages to this. We now are able to offer folks SNAP transactions without any transaction fees. There is an option for a month-to-month license. There's no long-term contracts. There's no early termination fees. As I mentioned already, there's no transaction fees or setup fees, and there are no ACH fees. So the purpose of the program is really to give farmers and markets an opportunity to try out accepting SNAP at no cost for the first year. Then afterwards, we'll get to the cost post the first grant, but essentially it's between $15.95 a month or $19.95 per month, depending on which program you pick. So this is a bring your own device program, which means that customers will need to utilize their own smart device. It can be either Android or Apple, it can be a phone, or it can be an iPad, whatever folks have that works for them, which of course the requirement is that there is internet and data service on that device. Then we provide a free card reader that plugs into your smart device, and then the use of the app, which you would log into using your device. This is a summary of the transaction rates. There are two options for credit and debit providers. Folks can decide that as they sign up. But as I mentioned before, there is no transaction fees for SNAP processing. This is an image of what the app actually looks like. If you look at the second to left screen, it's the easiest one to see. When you log in, you will have the different tender types available. And then as you see, there's a login, of course, on the main screen on the left. If you'd like to learn more about Total Pay Go, here's all the information on Novidia Group's information. And we'll provide this presentation as well, so no need to jot this down. You can look it up when we share it later. This is another important piece, is that once you have access to the Total Pay Go app, you also have access to an online portal where you can access all of your data. So a farmer or market can look at their sales, they can look at what tender types they've used the most, they can export a report about their revenue, which they can then upload into their whatever financial software they use, whether it be QuickBooks or other programs. But all of this information is available 24/7, and they can log into the portal to pull out any information that they need for their business. So how farmers and markets can get started, our very simple application is at www.marketlink.org/apply. It should only take a few minutes. And at the end of the eligibility assessment, they will be informed as to whether or not they qualify for the grant, and then they will receive further communications about what the next steps are, whether or not they qualify. As I mentioned earlier, there is a purchase program if they don't qualify for the grant. We'll help them work through what the right setup is for their particular situation. And then this is the other important aspect of the current grant. We do have some deliverables to work on future developments. And so that includes adding all tender types to the app, including EWIC, which is already able to be accepted in several states already. We're working on building out an electronic version of the Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And then we also have what's called a loyalty program in place already. And then we're also working on building out electronic incentive options. The development of the electronic FMNP is in conjunction with state agencies. As I'm sure most, if not all of you know, the Farmers Market Nutrition Program is managed at the state level. So that's a little bit trickier with regards to implementing a new program rather than one like SNAP, which is at the federal level. And we're building out opportunities for gift cards and loyalty programs, as well as expansion of companion apps to go along with the Total Pay Go app, which, as you can see, are listed here: Total Pay Register, a customer app to find farmers and markets, and hopefully we'll be able to build something out to enable farmers, markets, and farmers to accept SNAP online. EWIC and e-incentives is a hot topic these days. Just some bullet points here on what we're working on with regards to it. As I mentioned, EWIC is already available in some states through Total Pay Go. And there is a loyalty feature in the app currently that can be utilized for electronic incentive programs if they are SNAP-based. So if a program is interested in setting this up, they should talk to Novadia Group directly, since, of course, each program is slightly different and they'll have to work together to set up the business rules, determine the cost, et cetera, et cetera. The mission of any FMP is to cultivate opportunities for consumers to buy fresh produce from local growers. MarketLink is a natural extension of this mission, since it's a long-term vision of sustainability for farmers and markets by expanding their customer base, increasing their sales, and ensuring their profitability for the future. Here is our contact information. Again, we will share this in the chat if that's easiest, and then also after the webinar. And then here is information on the team members if you need to talk to someone about your particular questions or situation. And lastly, our website is www.marketlink.org. And then I will stop sharing my screen so that we can switch it over to Dawn. Thank you, everyone.
So it looks like if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. It looks like something just popped in. I don't know if you guys can see that. It might just be a comment. Everyone having conversations about benefits purchasing partner, Soltran about working with Novadia to integrate their platform and Total Pay. Oh, good. People are excited about the e-incentives. That's awesome. Yeah, so if you have questions for Amy, you can put your questions there. Also, if you are taking SNAP at your market, tell us about it. You know, what are some of the challenges you're up against? What are some of the things that are working for you? Tell us about your e-incentives. We want to know that too. I don't see any questions yet. Nobody's like raised their hand or anything. All right, so how about we move on? If you have questions for Amy, you can put them in the chat and we can certainly answer them later if you'd like. So I'm going to give the ball over to Dawn. And Dawn is joining us from Indianapolis. She works for the Society of St. Andrew at the Indiana Regional, as the Indiana Regional Director. And today she's going to tell us a little bit about the work that they do and how they intersect with farmers markets. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Peggy. It's great to be with you all this morning. I will just flip through, like Amy, this PowerPoint and do the highlights, and then if you have any questions, we'll take those at the end. So I am the Indiana Regional Office for Society of St. Andrew, and our mission is to bring people together to share healthy food, to also reduce food waste, and to build community around that by sharing this healthy food with our hungry neighbors. We are a national organization. We started back in 1979 in a small town called Big Island, Virginia, and it is just outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, in 1979. So we've been over 40 years, and we now have 8 regional offices throughout the United States, mainly from Virginia down along the East Coast into Florida, and then we opened this office in Indiana in January of 2018. So we're entering into our 4th year of operation here in the Midwest. So it was started by a couple of families who started living in community, started farming, met other farmers, realized the amount of food waste specifically around potatoes back in 1979, kind of pre-food bank days, and started moving and saving these potatoes and providing those for people who were food insecure. So we kind of address 2 issues, and the first of that is food insecurity, which we are all very aware of these days throughout the pandemic. And I just pulled the stats for Indiana, but we are in normal times, we're at a 13% of food insecurity rate. And of course, that has only doubled over the pandemic, but each state has food insecurity, and throughout the U.S., over 37 million people are food insecure. This information here on this chart is I pulled last month from Northwestern University that followed food insecurity week by week. The purple line is for Indiana, and we jumped from 13% to over 24%, and that's kind of been the jump throughout the United States. The black line shows the food insecurity rate for the U.S. That is over 20%. So we all know that food security increased throughout the pandemic for people who had never sought out any kind of government help through SNAP or WIC or any of those programs were in need of help, and thus USDA Farm to Family Food Boxes have been in effect throughout 2020 and continues through 2021, which I'll talk about just a little bit more. So that's the food insecurity rate paired with the amount of food waste that we have here in the U.S. Food waste is the second largest contributor to our methane gas pollution. Over 206 billion pounds of food. That's kind of hard for me to imagine, but they kind of what we equate it with is looking at a professional football team stadium filled from the field to the nosebleed section. Looking at that field twice a day, every day is kind of a visual of that food waste. Whereas 40% of our food actually never makes it to market. So whether it makes it out of the field for various reasons, whether that's a cosmetic imperfection or the farmer produced too much or the crop wasn't sold, there's so many factors that make up that 40% of food that never actually makes it to market. And looking at this EPA chart, where Society of St. Andrew tries to reach out is taking that existing food that's already there and putting it to best use by feeding hungry people, and avoiding that at the bottom of the chart. We don't want the food to be in a landfill or incinerator, and there's that's the steps that we kind of reach in to avoid that end result there. So what does all this have to do with gleaning, or what is gleaning? Society of St. Andrew is the oldest gleaning organization in the U.S., and gleaning comes from an Old Testament perspective out of the Bible, of the Book of Ruth, where farmers are called to leave the corners of their field for those who are poor and hungry. So fast forward that from days of the Old Testament to 2021, and we are still busy working today. So how we're kind of set up is we work with local farmers, and that means local farmers where we go in and glean their actual field. That means farmers where we're picking up 30 pounds of squash and zucchini. That's farmers markets that we'll focus on a little bit today, where we're gleaning from farmers markets. So our niche is working to reduce that waste that happens at the local farmer level. And we do that by organizing volunteers. So we're very volunteer-based. Each of our offices only have 2 staff, and the rest of that is based on volunteers. We organize volunteers to go into the fields or to pick up from local farmers or farmers markets, and then all of that is gleaned is donated free of charge to a local hunger relief organization. We don't care where the food goes as long as it's given away for free and it can't be resold. So that looks like a food bank, a food pantry, a refugee community, or low-income housing. We just want that to end up into the plate of those who are food insecure. So that's kind of a little bit about how we're set up and how we are organized. It looks different in different places. It could be at a farmer's market where we organize 1 or 2 volunteers to go in. Ahead of time, that is, we work with the farmer market masters to set that up. We don't want to replicate a service that's already in place, or if they already have a system of where they're taking food. But if that is not in place, we'll help set that up with the market master and in turn make those relationships with vendors. Then we organize a volunteer that goes in and will distribute boxes, bags, or crates, whatever is needed for each of the farmers, our vendors, to go in. And then just before the market closes, about half an hour, we'll go and pack those out to the different vendors. We wait till the market's closed when everybody's packing up their stuff, and then the volunteer will go around, pick that up, and then we keep record of all of that, and then that same volunteer will take that to a local hunger relief organization. So that is kind of a quick summary of what it looks like at a farmer's market. They're all a little bit different. Some vendors participate, some don't. We're doing the Indy Winters Market right now, and that looks like 5 pounds one week and maybe 20 pounds the next week. And then, during the summer, that can look like a couple of 100 pounds. It really just differs throughout the year. But we also do things in parking lots, in the field, from 200-acre cucumber farms to 2 acres of kale. It really just depends on the farmer, and we do what works best for the farmer. Throughout the pandemic, we have been able to work with the USDA and have been able to distribute the farm to family food boxes, and that looks like from a dock our parking lot as well. What are the benefits to farmers by working with Society of St. Andrew? We keep track of all the product and pounds that are donated, and at the end of the year, we provide a farmer with a tax statement that they can use on their tax purposes. We don't put a value on that. That is just given to the farmer, and the farmer is able to value that and use that for tax purposes if he or she would like to do that. But our farmers are covered under the Good Samaritan Care Act. Of what they've donated food-wise is received in good faith, is donated in good faith, is received in good faith, so they're covered under their donation of food. But they're also covered under our volunteers on a waiver, so there's no liability for volunteers being in their field either. So those are not to mention reducing food waste and building those relationships within the community. Those are the benefits that we offer. And again, we are very volunteer-based. We rely on volunteers to pick up, to glean, to help us distribute boxes. That is how we are set up. And our office is based in Indianapolis, but we are working throughout the state. And we just hired somebody in Cincinnati, Ohio as well, and so we'll be working to grow that network within Ohio. We do move through our national office. We move throughout all 49 states here in the U.S., so there's a network within each of the states. Here's just some quick photos of gleaning and what that looks like. We have organized volunteers that cut our mesh bags for us that we use in the field. We've gleaned from farmers markets to apples to watermelons to every product. We glean in the winter, we glean in the summer. It just depends on the farmer, and we try to work with each farmer to do what works best for them. This is some of our specific farmers markets that we gleaned over the summer. As we all know, early on, just as March was starting last year, our farmers were starting to plan, and it was a big upheaval about how farmers were going to sell all of their stuff, and we really worked hard in Indiana to work with the farmers that we had gleaned with to get their information out, get their sales out, and then slowly the farmers market started back up, and we were able to glean all of last season at 2 farmers markets in Indianapolis last year, and we continue to do the winter market here in Indianapolis as well. We also move large loads of food, and this is what we call a produce drop, where a semi shows up. We work with 40 potato farmers throughout the U.S., and different organization groups will help us cover the freight of that, and that it's brought to a parking lot, volunteers bag that up, and then it's distributed within the community on the same day. These are some pictures of the farm-to-family food boxes that were moved. If you're not familiar with the program, the government, through USDA, provided funding to help farmers reduce food waste at the beginning of the pandemic in order to pay those farmers for their products, and then in turn help feed those that were food insecure that came up during the pandemic. We just entered into the 5th round of that this year, and we started helping move truckloads last week. I think we have about 9 truckloads a week that we're doing here in Indiana, in addition to what the food banks are doing as well. So a lot of that you can see is fresh produce, dairy, meat, great products that are able to be boxed up and then distributed to either individuals or to pantries, local food pantries. Gleaning is hard work. It is oftentimes very hot in the summer. It's a great social distance because you can get into a cornfield and space out, get your mask on. It's been all really good. We did over 4.1 million pounds of food last year that we were able to save and distribute throughout 2020. And it's hard work, but it's very rewarding. And we even actually have a little bit of fun on occasion with meeting new people and gleaning kind of wonky products like that sweet potato there on the bottom. So ways to connect, introduce gleaning to your local farmer, to your local farmer's market, engage volunteers to glean, help us connect with an agency, host a produce drop or a farmer's market, and all the money that is donated stays within the state where it's donated, but there's many ways to connect. And if we don't have a regional office in your state, I'm happy to connect with our national office to make those connections as well. So there's my contact information that we can share in the chat, and as well, I'll share this presentation with you as well. So thank you so much, and it's great to be with you all today. I'll hand this back over to me.
Thanks, Dawn. Quick question, maybe I missed it, but you guys make the connection with the farmer or with the farmer's market to glean the product, and then who are you working with to distribute the food? And maybe I missed that part. I'm sorry.
Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I do this all the time and sometimes not real clear. We connect with the farmer, we connect the volunteers, and we connect with the agency. So when we are gleaning a field, we know when we walk into that field about how many volunteers we'll have, about how much product is in there to glean, and we've organized ahead of time how many, where that food will go, whether it's to an agency or a low-income area. We know ahead of time where that food will go, because if we're going to have 1,000 pounds of corn, we know that this food pantry can take 500 and this food pantry can take another 500. Sometimes the pantries will come pick up, and other times we may load up 3 pickup trucks that we will take and deliver that to a local hunger relief organization. So we try to keep the food as local as possible. So we'll try to reach out to those that are closest to the farm. And if it's, a 200-acre cucumber farm, the cucumbers will stay in that city, in that county, but it will probably most likely go through counties that are surrounding as well.
Oh, that's okay. So it's a lot of matchmaking is kind of what you're
yes.
doing. You're finding the volunteers, you're finding the farmers in the market, and then also the entities to receive the food and then distribute it out.
Right. And if it's a farmer's market, most likely that will go to 1 or 2 agencies that's closest to the market. That has been, or if it's diverse products, that we'll take that to multiple agencies that are within. For Indianapolis, those are all staying within the Indianapolis area. But because fresh produce is really something that's really highly sought after by hunger relief organizations.
Okay. And so right now you're located in Indiana. Are you only working with Indiana markets, like you and your regional office, or do you work with other states in the Midwest as well?
So for right now, we're Indiana and Ohio. But like I said, if somebody in a different state where we don't have an office, our national office can help connect, make those local connections. We have somebody in our national office that does those connections where we don't have a regional office. But you can do that contact through me. If somebody's interested, I'll be happy to make that connection.
Awesome. Wonderful. So I put your website address in the chat, and then that of MarketLink as well. But if you wouldn't mind putting your email address, I know we just saw it, but if you wouldn't mind putting that in there, and then Amy as well, so we know that we can reach out to you. There was a question for, I think Amy can probably take it, that came from Brittany over in Ohio. She was one of our speakers in October, and she said that they're accepting SNAP at the market, but they're running into some challenges with their card reader. And I'm wondering, Amy, do you have any advice for Brittany?
I can certainly look into it for her directly. I don't see the question, so wait, is it in the chat?
It should be.
Here,
I don't know.
Sorry, let me try and make it bigger so I can.
Use the old Brooklyn Market. Yeah, sometimes the font gets real tiny there.
So Brittany, I would love to follow up with you offline. I'm not sure if you have our equipment. It sounds like you might qualify for new equipment, which may improve the situation. So Brittany, if you could, I will try and connect with you and get your email, and we'll try and get things sorted out to help you out.
Okay, great. Do you guys see any other questions in the chat? Looks like Michelle's in Indianapolis too. And they currently have 8 markets where they're distributing SNAP incentives, kind of cool, which are called Fresh Bucks. They're going to share out the grant with the markets that they work with. Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. So I have a question for Amy. As far as if a market is presently not taking SNAP and wants to take advantage of the free equipment, I know that you told us that there are a handful of steps. What is the kind of the time frame? If you have all your ducks in a row, all your paperwork kind of, ready to go, as far as the time it takes to kind of before you, or, when you apply for the grant, apply for SNAP to become a SNAP retailer, what's on average do you think that time frame is?
Yes, so we have been able to get folks approved in as little as a week or two. So after you submit your eligibility assessment, you'll get an email with next steps, generally within a day, no more than 2 business days, and then you should be able to get the FNS application is always the long pole in the tent. So if you do it on your own, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. We can actually submit that on their behalf. So if you set up an appointment with us, soon after you've submitted your eligibility assessment, and then you provide the additional paperwork necessary in a timely way, then we've seen, as I said, farmers and markets get approved within a week or two, and so they can get their equipment in as little as a week. I would say the average is usually 2 to 3 weeks overall to get the entire process done from start to finish. But also, if someone is already SNAP authorized, they could receive their equipment in as little as a week if they complete all the paperwork quickly.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I think when I was in the office, I didn't sit too far away from the folks that actually approved some of those applications for the farmers markets. And I know I used to be able to just walk over and say, hey, listen, I just got a call from such and such market, can you move their move their stuff along, please? I can still pick up a phone, I guess, and call those folks. But it seems like I'm not hearing as many holdups as maybe we did a couple of years ago. So maybe we've kind of got a better process going. I'm not sure. I did put the link for how some information on the USDA site for farmers markets and how to become a SNAP retailer That's our site. MarketLink, of course, can help hold your hand through the process, which I think seems like a better avenue than maybe just taking on a government application by yourself. So certainly,
I would also, just one other thing that I should have said as well is that I highly recommend that folks do it earlier rather than later, because as you can imagine, there are only so many of us, and as it gets closer to market season, there's only so many hours in the day that we can provide assistance to folks. So we inevitably see a crush right before market season starts. You know, I need this yesterday, but it is really the smoothest way to go is to start it as early as you can.
Oh, great. That's good to know. Let's see. I don't see any other questions at this point. Maybe? Let's see. David Nicholson has given me a different link. I can share that out with everybody. It might be better. I don't know. It's not opening for me. All right, well, again, you can put your questions, and if you can select who you want to send them to. You can click on the drop down that says everyone, and they'll go out to everyone. And some of you are sharing that way, and then some of you are sending things directly to our presenters. It's very different than our former in-person meetings where we could just look somebody in the eye and ask a question. Now you kind of have to wait for people to type. So I'll give it another second. Are there any other things that you think that maybe we need to hear in the meantime about your program that maybe you didn't have an opportunity to tell us about? Or this link works too. Thank you, David. I'm going to send that out to everyone. Amy would love to hear more about plans for online SNAP for farmers and producers. That's from David Nicholson.
Yes, we are hopeful that we'll start to work on that project this year. We'll see. We've been in discussions with FNS about it and provided a proposal a while back. So we're just waiting to hear next steps on hopefully being able to do that work. But we have, we're trying to walk the line of being as prepared as possible to jump right in to be able to build a solution out. But that's kind of where it stands right now. We're waiting to move forward with that. But we have been thinking about it and incorporating it in, as I mentioned, kind of the big picture is for the federal benefits programs to be streamlined, both for the customers and for the farmers and markets. So we would love to be able to have all of the programs accepted on the app, and then also for those farmers, particularly in light of the pandemic, to be able to enable them to accept SNAP in their online storefronts, which I'm sure the number of those expanded exponentially last year too. So as many of you on this call I know are familiar with, the back end of the system is the complicated part. You know, there's somewhat of a misperception out there that, you know, so long as someone has an online marketplace, they can just kind of plug in SNAP to the back of it and have it work. But it's a bit more complicated than that. And so that's why we're fortunate to be working with Novidia Group that's been, you know, working with SNAP for many, many, many years. And, you know, obviously we're the only ones to develop an app that meets all of FNS's guidelines. So they've already been thinking through kind of the best way forward for that.
So in follow-up to that, David says, seems like there would need to be a lot of exceptions to back of the house requirements, like tracking, et cetera.
Those are some of the things we're trying to work through to ensure that the farmers and markets can meet all of FNS's requirements, but then also have access without having to invest, you know, thousands or more in development of their own individual systems. Since, you know, we've helped thousands of farmers and markets be able to accept SNAP already, hopefully we can build a solution that piggybacks off of what the work that we've already done is, rather than reinventing the wheel and going back to the farmers and markets and saying, sorry, you have to start all over again, you know, figure this out on your own. That's our goal, again, is to provide these services for them. And then, of course, as hand in hand and part and parcel is expanding the acceptance of SNAP.
Great, thank you. So Michelle Snippy, who's also in Indiana, says, hey, Dawn, are you open to other markets reaching out to you? And we have a market manager meeting prior to the season, and we can share the info there in Indy.
Yes, that would be great. Very open to that. Part of it is just throughout the pandemic, we didn't expand any of that just because of the whole volunteer, but now, engaging volunteers in that, but we hope this year could be a little bit different. So yeah, thanks, Michelle.
And you got a thank you from David. Amy, thank you. All right. Also, a lot of people ask, okay, so once I get SNAP at my market, how do I attract those SNAP customers? And I know that I just put a link into the chat that talks about some of the bonus incentives, like Double Up Food Bucks, like the Fresh Bucks in Indianapolis. Talks a little bit about like flyering and postering and marketing signage, building partnerships, which are very, very important. But, there's a lot of really great resources out there. I'm sure MarketLink has some. And then also the National Association of Farmers Markets. They do a lot of, did I say that right? Coalition of Farmers Markets? I think I said the name wrong.
Farmers Market Coalition.
Thank you, Farmers Market Coalition. And they have a lot of really great resources out there about how to actually bring those SNAP participants into your market so they can use their SNAP benefits there and buy the nice fresh fruits and vegetables. So I'm not seeing any other questions. I've got the chat and the Q&A kind of going. So I haven't moved my own slides. So I think we'll just wrap here. I want to thank both Amy and Dawn for presenting today. Thank you for all the great information. And like I said, we will share in a summary in an email out to our 700 plus people. So we are going to get you out in front of a lot of folks. In our summary, we're going to send this recording out so everyone will have access to that. We will share slides, links, all of the goodies. And that should come out in the next week or so. Our next meeting is going to be held on Wednesday, May the 12th at 10 a.m. Central. So please spread the word. Also, I wanted to just kind of let you guys know, please forward on the emails. In the bottom of the email, it has a join us or connect with us, and you can click on that, and then other people can actually sign up to get the newsletter. So please help us spread the word that this meeting exists. So we do meet 3 times a year. The next one is May the 12th, and we hope to see you there. I have 1 speaker lined up. And I'm looking for at least 1 more. So if you want to volunteer one of your friends, then please do that. So we'll wrap it up for today. We're a little bit, we'll give you 10, 12 minutes of your time back, which is always good. So thank you so much, everyone. Stay warm out there, stay safe, wear your masks, and you guys have a great day. Bye-bye. All right.